In the 1984 murders of Kermit Alexander's family was formally given a death sentence today. An LA Superior Court commissioner accepted a jury's recommendation of death in the gas chamber for 27-year-old Darren Williams. Williams was convicted in the killings of Alexander's mother and 3 other members of his family. Alexander is a former UCLA football star. The 4 family members were murdered by mistake when the 3 killers went to the wrong house.
All right, my people. Sound running. Let's get it. All right, camera running. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's the Stream 365 moment, people. I want y'all to understand. We got my brother Ivan here. Ivan Scott. Ivan Scott is a definitely survivor. I couldn't put it in no other words. You know, I want you guys to understand where I'm at with this. At this point right now, I'm going to leave the floor to the brother right here to take you back, right? And I want you to understand this is a really, really sentimental moment for him. And I'm going to have him take you back to a place and a time in his life that was a crazy day. I guess it's nevertheless to say, right? But Ivan, can you please tell these people a little bit about the story of the day? What happened?
Well, shit, it was 1984, August 31st, about 8:30 in the morning. Man, I was awakened by gunshots in the privacy of my home.
Okay.
14-year-old kid, and just, you know, wherever you at 14, you know, just go back on that, everybody. We all hit 14, most of us.
Right. So at this time, we're talking about, you know, kid playing outside, innocence. Right.
Our drama ain't the world's drama.
Correct.
Correct. You know, back in this case, my cousin, who was one of the casualties in that morning. He was 13, so we're like best of friends. But you know how kids go through what kids go through.
Right.
And we had like some sleeping, kind of taking you forward, but you get understanding what the kids stuff camp summer. And so, you know, we're in my grandmother's house, and the back room was identified as a dungeon. We didn't have a TV and none of that stuff, so my aunt's room was up front. And so the first night, my younger brother, 8, and my cousin, 13, they slept in one house, a room. So I slept in the back with my uncle, one of my uncles. My grandmother had 11 kids. And so one of the uncles stayed with us, and I was actually in my other uncle's bed, who was a freshman at UCLA at the time. And so he's on campus. If not for that, he would have been in the house. And so next to him on the other side of the room is his older brother, and that's his bed. I think that's a bed look like that. And so up front, so ain't no TV back here with us.
Right.
I made the sacrifice to sleep with Uncle Neil, you know what I'm saying? Like this old man, you know what I'm saying? This is 13, 14-year-old teenager stuff. This is 1984 Olympics, you know, going through all this kind of stuff. Karate Kid, Beat Street and Breaking.
So if you can, because I want you to understand, at this time, who's your uncle?
My uncle is Kermit Alexander.
And who is he? Because to relate him in the time and place, just to give them an example, like, you know, because we understand it, LeBron James, right? In his life, right? So we're touching on that. You know what I mean?
Well, especially with the Super Bowl just passed, and Rams did win, and that's the second time they won the Super Bowl. And the first time I knew that my uncle was a football star is I was at summer camp about age 8, and the camp instructors, teenagers and young adult males, pulled me to the side like, this is his nephew right here.
Correct.
And I'm like, who, you know my Uncle Kermit? I don't know about football like that. I'm into animals and stuff, you know. Yeah. Ranger Rick. If anybody remember that magazine back in 1977 and shit. So I'm like, that's just my uncle. I don't know anything about it. That's Uncle Kermit. I didn't know he had broke Gale Sayers up in the history books when it comes to NFL. Chicago's Comet got whooped on by my uncle on the battlefield on purpose because his wife was talking a bunch of stuff in the Chicago club like she earned all that money.
Wow.
And so my uncle, being one of those men that said, I can't beat up on a woman, I promise you I'll stop your money from rolling up in your purse and having you thinking a certain way. So he's known for that. He went up against Papa Bear Hallis. He kind of disturbed the Chicago Bears because he broke up some money. And so, you know, they kind of say he was blackballed in that respect, but he was truly in his right, one of the best players. He was the highest draft pick from out of UCLA in 1963. He ended up going to, I think, New York Jets, was on Philadelphia, one of the teams, and eventually he got over to the San Francisco 49ers and retired with the Rams. But more important than that is he founded the NFL Union and was the first president of the NFL Union. So he's responsible for everybody getting the big money.
Right.
That's what most people in the industry know.
So we're talking about, at this time, he's already a superstar. At this moment, at this day,
he's the highest paid player in his day in '63. Number top draft pick. You know, played both ways. As a DB and a running back. Came from out of UCLA, Hall of Famer, and you know, did what he did in the NFL. But like I said, I like to highlight more of the unification and what he did when it came to these guys back then still had day jobs.
Right.
And so they started to realize, look, we're breaking up each other for the amusement of these people in these stands, and we know we're giving these owners a lot of money. And so we need some of that. And so power to the people, y'all. We come from Watts, California. My uncle came before the '65 riot, so he understood the importance of sticking together. And on that front, he did that in their history. And so it was like a rude and very cold situation that morning when this thing occurred. And that was his mother and his baby sister and his nephews. And so I'm a survivor of it. And that's what we're talking about.
So this is where we are, and this is 1983. 84. August 31st, 1984. 1984, man. Still in Brooklyn. I'm still running around. I'm a baby, man. At that time, I'm 10 years old. You know what I mean?
This is
right. I'm a baby. I'm still remember that. I
remember the porch with us.
Right. I remember the block party. We still right. Block parties. No, we're not going too much far off the block. But at this time, being in the house. So can you give us an idea? I guess what the day started like, maybe. Like, you know,
that morning,
right? Yeah, with your brother, with your cousins, and everybody.
Oh, it was. You know, just think of that happy music in the morning, and then it was disturbed by gunshots. So
bright and early, right? That was the way.
8:30 in the morning. So nobody was up. But my grandmother, you know what I'm saying? She was the early bird doing her thing, like elders do. She was 58 and tended to her garden. You know, she didn't see the need to have to lock her door behind. Just stepping in to get her coffee and follow her, and she turned around her kitchen and he shot her with M1 in the face.
And to shed light, right, on the situation, I would like to, I guess, evaluate, look into a little more into the situation. I guess what happened is, if I'm right, it was all a mistake. It wasn't even the right house.
Since it's you, man, and we here doing what we do, and people want to know me.
Right.
And I don't know what happened when it comes to, you hear one story, you hear another story. This is me as a kid after the fact, and these are the addicts when it comes to,
right.
You know, I don't know. I'm a kid.
So correct.
What I am hearing now, you got to keep in mind, we're a family that's, this is celebrities family. This is
deep rooted in the community.
We stayed in the community, man.
Right.
My uncle. He was giving examples. And the rest of the family was all, because it's a big family.
Right.
And so he's not the only man. And so it was that's what we looked up to. And so it was that kind of camaraderie, like you was expected, to be, like this. As far as every aspect of what that is, including you respect your mothers, so you don't care if she this small, you this tall.
Right.
You don't shoot your mothers in the face. Black people. You don't do that. And so that's what shocked us then, because it wasn't this day where this is kind of a regular situation.
Right.
This is happening on a regular now.
This is communities, and to make you understand, we really took pride in black communities. I don't think the younger generation understands what it is to have a black community and understand what it is to even grow up in one. It is something that is missing in the communities right now, so I do understand. It's something that you're shedding a real light to, and it needs to be shed, you know what I mean? So
like you said, as a kid, it was all of that and that security.
Right.
And now it's, man, I'm looking at, the news, and, because it's my uncle, it's like all eyes is on him. I mean, I just recently watched an interview, like you said, in that interview, man, it ain't hit him yet. You know what I'm saying? He gotta deal with it, in a few days. He said, I'm sure I'll figure it out. But now, his ex-wife, my aunt, I'm close. I'm in his house. I live with him after the fact, especially. And so, I'm listening to my aunt explain how angry he was. But in public, he's the leader of the family. And so he's still doing what his mother taught him. Off the camera, he was nutting up. He took over the city until the mayor and chief of police, Daryl Gates, snatched him off the streets in action and said, man, we get it, but let us do our part, we promise you. And that was a bunch of BS, but just think, you inspired everybody to do what you do.
Right.
Now the whole world looking to you. And everybody's saying to themselves what they would do. And it's not as easy. I don't want anybody to have to go through it and have to be in that situation, but I committed double homicide 4 months afterwards. I'm still a kid. And it's because of what I'm hearing. Listen to the detectives coming and going. And claimed it was for the neighbors 2 houses down. And we grew up with them. In fact, that family came to the house because one of the things we thought was the older brother. It was for him because he was in that age group when it came. This is Crip and Blood era. You know what I'm saying? This is the second generation of that group of individuals and where they're going with it. And this other individual down the street was in that age group. And so people thought it was intended for him initially. Like it was the wrong house and all of that, and then we ended up finding out, according to the officers and the detectives, that it was his sister who had filed a lawsuit against this. This is all alleged because I don't.
Right. These are neighborhood stories. Right.
So, at this point, she had went to a club and she turned 18 or 21 or something and got shot at the club and was paralyzed as a result of that. And so the family had sued the club owner, and he was one of them old school boogie joint type cats. So they say he paid to get her out the way, and they say that the guys who came were high on cocaine, crack was doing a crack.
Right, this is very
so I think they got paid a quarter key and some other shit. And this is all that story.
Right, stories,
so,
correct.
And that's the one that the world knows. That's what the officials, press and they announcements and all. That's what they said. And so we thought Melvin, Taylor, the Taylor family. I mean, their father got my grandmother her first job at Alco aluminum factory. So it wasn't like this is family.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? And so
this is a horrible situation at this point, and then for you to be 4 months later,
it was based on that.
Right. I mean, it's a lot of conversation for a 14-year-old kid to hear right at this point. You know what I mean? Especially after.
I want to. This is nobody else knows it. I mean, it's in my book. But my 14-year-old, my way of thinking is not accurate like a chess player or anything like that. So when I hear this, the rage is I'm gonna go get them. If they caused it, I'm getting everybody. So I'm thinking, and I'm really rationalizing. I come up watching Dirty Harry and Death Wish and shit. So it's like, what would they do? Right? I'm looking at the office, it's like, man, what would y'all do? And it's like, man, so don't be mad at me, like my way of thinking. And so, I got kids fall on me. And like, I'm the oldest of the rest of the kids after the fact. This is living after the fact. And so they just agreeing to be whatever we gonna do. And they don't know. Like, I don't know. And we call ourselves trying to go all the way over to the other side of town to deal with this family.
This is traumatic. I mean, at this point, you just put yourself in their shoes. Like, you got to think about it. You were in the house, and you were the only survivor at this point.
Well, my uncle that fought the guy off.
Okay, he was the second. Okay, so
he's mentally disturbed, though. So we don't, we going through stuff.
And this is after the fact?
Well, before
that. Wow.
At college, he went to University of San Francisco. My grandmother and grandfather had 11 kids, and there was four boys and 7 girls. And so my uncle Kermit is the oldest, and then there are 3 girls after him, and then the next boy is my Uncle Neil. And so he's following Uncle Kermit in his footsteps. And so he's at the University of San Francisco at the time and playing football. And his college, peers, fraternity stuff or something, man, they put some LSD in the punch and thought it was a joke, and he never came back.
Damn.
And so he was in and out of situations, so that's why he was at my grandmother's house at the time.
Man, I mean,
that really fucked people.
Right, and lessons to be learned. I mean, at this point right now, we still going into this, and I don't even understand the mental of that right there. What would make you do that? I don't.
But the way it's promoted with my uncle's book and his new wife, he started a lot of programs in the community, Pop Warner Leagues, Watch Wildcats. And so, like I said, we got a big family, so he delegated a lot to other male figures in the community. He did all he could do when it comes to helping, people get into better positions and coaching positions and academics. So Charles Drew, Russell Elementary, my Uncle Caldwell was a prominent figure that paved the way. He had married my Aunt Mary Ann, which is one of the older siblings, and so he took on dealing with the youth and keeping them in these programs with Kermit. And so Kermit was more on the administrative side, and Uncle Caldwell was the field.
So he still stayed true to what he was.
It was real blackness when it comes to it was called Wildcats. People, it was just a black uniform, and they played against these white kids in Downey, Hawthorne, all these areas that people didn't know as far as Californians. They know these areas where like black folks just got a pass to go in them areas today. So we was up in there banging them up, and showing that we some people to be reckoned and respected. And these black men did that for us. And then this situation took place. And this young brother, man, we learned after the fact. In fact, I think one of my aunts in court seen him and was like, "That's such and such kid. Like, wow. Why is this little motherfucker?" That kind of shit. So it's really fucked up, because we community people. I'm saying? We can drive to your house.
Right.
We know the family, ain't nobody gonna go over there and do no wrong to nobody, and didn't. And I went to the same high school as younger brothers went to. So we was talking about we had a cop there, man. He walked up to the gate. I was sad, man. I just wanted to let you know the other guy died. He was really upset over the fact that I got out.
Oh, you serious? Okay.
Yeah, wow. Thinking this fucker that way, the murder type shit. And it wasn't even that. It was what the family did. I'm a minor, and I wanted to go confess to the priest. And they ran all of that, put me in juvenile hall while they did what they did. And
Right.
of course, the whole world knows who the family is, and district attorney is dealing with the shit, and so we get to go. They let me go. With that, looking at me a certain way, like, you gotta keep an eye on you type shit. You turn out to be something. I mean, I'm seeing that in the detective's eyes that's investigating my family shit. District attorney, as I got older, and like, you know, wicked ass motherfucker.
At this point, he's just stopping by the fucking.
Yeah, he can't, cause he's feeling like, man, how you gonna get away from something like that?
So what we was touching on, he said, you know, at this point, you know, you said your mother was more so upset that he came by the house and gave you the information rather than giving her.
Yeah, they feel like it was against what a professional should be. You know, I'm a kid going through shit. I tried to kill myself after that. I feel like, man, it's one motherfucker for sure. Now it's two motherfuckers. No, I'm really not, you know, gonna go to heaven. I'm 14 years old. I'm thinking the way everybody thinks. I don't want to die. I don't want to go to hell. And all the shit that they're gonna put in our head. You know, yeah, I'm a Catholic, man. I'm an altar boy. Wow, I'm feeling like I'm not gonna ever make it to paradise. That's what they teach you, carnal and venal sin. And murder is a carnal sin. And you don't get no, this is how they taught us, nuns, lying motherfuckers, or if this is true according to the belief, man. And so I'm left with this, and I ain't got adult figures to really help me with it. I'm dealing with psychologists and shit, it's not working. And I'm like, the streets is what I can relate to now. I mean, I just committed myself to the streets, because now it's turning something different. And this is, now it's some gangbanging shit with it. That's still,
at this point, how old are you now?
I'm 14.
You're still 14, so
It's just, you know, some politicking going on in the neighborhood behind this shit.
So, Crip blood, what was
that part? And so I come from the neighborhood. Craig Munson started my neighborhood. It wasn't no Crip blood. He started both sides. When it comes to the avenues, he slapped Brandon Washington in the face. Because he was just one of them kind of kids that joked around too much. He was little kids to them. Like these motherfuckers that everybody knows as founders and stuff. Somebody older than you, man. My Uncle Kermit, I got to listen to my great uncle talk about he slapped them around a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, damn. And so,
the neighborhood.
This is the neighborhood. So, you know, it started, and that's why it was, you know, it was the neighborhood that had me when it comes to, we not out here doing no disturbing shit. It's like, man, we don't just go and hit the wrong people on stuff, man. Come on, man. And so it's a lot that I'm thankful for when it comes to my big homies, and they don't know who they are. The ones that ain't here no more, the younger ones that follow me out there, they all know what's up. It was hard. It was hard to deal with that kind of shit. It wasn't gang related, but then it was gang related.
Right. It's family at this point.
It's family. I don't give a fuck who did it. And so, and a whole lot of people can relate to this shit. And so a lot of these kids really can relate to it because they're my brother's age. They became, you know, his era was the, like Ice Cube and them said, that little ass G. You know what I'm saying? That third, fourth generation motherfucker lead to where we at now. They just crazy. And, you know, but it's because these kids are scary because it's they, you know, I learned years later from cats, you know, and they're like, man, we was in school and they had assemblies and they was helping us understand death because of what happened to our, you know, to my brother. And they didn't know. It's like, I'm dealing with cats that's his age and they saying, man, my moms, them had to like sit us down and let us know what happened to him. And they like, they not understanding none of this shit. And so I ended up going to prison and, you know, over 10 years. From 92 to 2002, so now they growing up as teenagers.
This is way after the fact, right? This is way after the fact. Now you in it.
So when I get out and I'm listening to them because they're younger than me, and they share with me what they doing now that I'm gone, and they keeping it up. When it comes to, man, they not playing with dirt rocks no more. They was like, have me in awe. Like, this is what you guys been having to do since I've been gone? Cause I'm hearing about it. I'm in prison going through prison shit. They on the streets going through what we hearing on the music. You know, the music about these motherfuckers. It's wild out here. And yeah, I fucked a lot. And so it just went to one of that generation, like what they did that to his family like that. And I come from a neighborhood that started all this shit. I live on the historical block. And so these kids turn, you know, they all part of this neighborhood, so it just turned into.
To give them an idea, what was the historical plot, so they could get an idea.
I grew up in Kitchen.
Okay.
The oldest hood in the history of Crips. Come from under the avenues, much respect to Lil Runt, you know, my homegirl Laverne for keeping it going strong with under her brother, Big Runt, is Craig Munson's baby brother, and he's the motherfucker that led the pack. He gave me the shells when the shit happened. You know, this is my big homie, this is my gang fighting with him toe to toe with other motherfuckers being introduced to this shit, because he had my back as a kid before my brother got killed. He was the guy in the neighborhood that just kept us protected. You know, he looked out for us, man. And so when that happened, he really looked out for us. And much
This is where it all boils into, man. You just gotta understand, people. This is a factual story. This is a story you can actually, you'll never ever hear these details from it. This is one of the only people that really walked out of the door from this massacre, you know, and I have to say in those words, and it's basically what happened. You know, these are people that weren't involved in anything, you know what I mean? They were God-fearing people. They were, you know, into their own life. You know, at this point they were being inspirational to people in the hood, and you know, that's what they were looking forward to giving, you know what I mean, back, you know, and that's what it really boiled down to. It's a hard situation.
That's what I share with Skip Townsend, who's a brother that come from that era and made the transition and has been really stronghold out there to get these cats to tie the rags, you know, leave, because we all, those of us who have survived, you see it's a senseless situation. You see all this evidence, like, you know, freeway rape. Now, all the dudes I grew up with them, I grew up following my cousins now. They from these neighborhoods and shit. They started these neighborhoods, and you know, I'm there.
This is early. This is early. This is what people have to understand.
Snowfall, that stuff is not us. My company, Ricky, you know, he shared that with, you know, right. Man, that, you know, they took the story and ran with it, but I know how he really did it, and I was there, you know, 73rd and Hoover, you know, and so it was really rocking and rolling out there over that cocaine trade, man. And these neighborhoods from the east to the west was like really on something, and I was in the middle of it because I went there after the suicide did work. And after they copied that for bullshit and had me thinking like, man,
but you didn't touch. Let's touch on that, because that's something that we didn't get to.
That's
suicide. What did you do, and what happened?
And you know, after they went through, and mother and them feeling like, you know, this dude, he shouldn't have done it like that. Because now my son's psychic is fucked up even more, and because I had to let her know what he said. And you know, I'm breaking down. You know, I'm 51 years old now. I still break down. So imagine then, you know, so. It's disturbing her because she's seeing me every day. You know, how I'm reacting to all this stuff after the funeral, after the cameras is gone, after my uncle ain't here, you know, after it's back to the neighborhood and catching the bus, and now you're hearing these other uncensored stories. It's not ABC News no more. This is somebody talking about this is what really happened. And I'm already growing up in this era where, you know, we know what's up in the streets. And so I'm begging to differ on shit, and I'm challenging shit, and I'm upset with shit, and I'm like, not trusting the motherfuckers that's hollering at me about it, like shit, you know. So we kids, but we ain't, man, I'm scared. These niggas is killing, and so we gotta sit on porches and think about it. I need a gun. That's first and foremost. So we're gonna keep getting these guns, and so I became known for that little nigga that carried guns, and so like. You can't tell me killing ain't real.
Right.
Motherfucker killed my whole family. And
right.
So fuck all that. These niggas are still out here. These niggas talking about that's their homeboy. Just turning into all kind of crazy ass shit. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. And they do a motherfucker with me, don't give a fuck neither, because we seeing this power we got when it comes like Nas and how he shit about, you know, that gun, you know what I'm saying, and how you know, just knew me and how you got this power because of me, and you know, and the story about how you had the rusty, you know, Mac 10 and the shootout, and the nigga had a better one, and you know, and all that kind of shit. Because we kids, man, and we living with, and I'm seeing it. Older motherfuckers around the motherfuckers, we can tell they ain't treating us like them other young motherfuckers is getting treated. You know what I'm saying? Because they understand. My homie Long John is a real one, and that motherfucker, he chastised my homie T-Bone, man. May he rest in peace. And little T-Bone, you know, he came off the porch with me. He was the one next to me that really came off the porch with me. He was the therapy that kept me away from trying to commit suicide after the fact. You know, he became my, you know, like, better than a psychologist, but I'm not knowing the time that I'm really feeding them stuff. I'm venting out to them, and they getting it, and they not, you know, they really empathetic and
right. They
looking at like, man, I'm not gonna let this baby rest, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. And so, you know, I wake up mornings, you know, go out, and they, you know, told me about something that happened because they was all night type stuff. I ain't still able to sneak out like that. I come from one of them families, man. And so he's starting to come out and they starting to leak and stuff. I'm letting them hold the guns. And next thing you know, I'm waking up and the big homies and got the guns from them and done something with it. And, you know, it's like, where you know, because it ain't easy at the time to get firearms still. You know, so we at that period like, we hear
early 80s.
Yeah, we hear about AKs and stuff when it comes to nobody got
early 80s
was something that you focused on like, so we kids, and so we understand that it's in some household, and households don't have automatic weapons. You know what I'm saying? Households is regular people, you know,
right.
Shotgun at the most, you know, and little firearms, but it still work type stuff, but we're not the ones with that crazy shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But we realize that that's what's out there. You know, this dude hit my family with an M1 carbine, and so we you know, we kids, you know, we know about mechanics. We the ones that sit next to the guys fixing the cars, and we around the big homies talking about stuff. They got stuff, you know what I'm saying? They at the age where they supposed to have stuff.
Right.
We looking at it like,
right.
These are some kids, man. They ain't supposed to be having nothing like this. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck a BB gun.
I can relate.
You don't be questioning about the pellet gun, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? You ain't supposed to be around here. No firearms. Hey, that's what led me to the streets furthermore, because one of my other big homies that gave me a pellet gun, and I used to take my frustration out of the yard, and shooting cans and shit. And I had that motherfucker in a backpack. And my next door neighbor, show y'all family, this is, you know, shit, this is one of my elders, may she rest in peace, Delcy, stayed on the corner house on 87 Places, you know, everybody know who she is. And she watered her grass, doing her thing, and she seen me walking to school. Next thing you know, I'm down the street a bit, and I hear my stepdaddy, in his boxer drawers and shit. He coming up the ways, I'm going back towards this motherfucker. Get close to me, this nigga slap me in the head, wow, snatch the book bag, nigga snatch the gun out. It's like you get your ass on to school, nigga. When you get home, I'm gonna do with you. That kind of shit. So I'm scared of the ass whooping. And so I said, I can't go back. And we went up and did something worse. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, goddamn, nigga, we did something. He could have just got an ass whooping. As long as I bring that ass whooping, fucked over you, boy. I'm like, nigga, he had that leather belt. Nigga, I was like, oh, damn. Booty I'll say playing, nigga, because the elder called him, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, she needs to shit like ass, but like this motherfucker walking down the street with a gun, and he got to jump out the bed, nigga, and box the dog.
It was everybody's responsibility.
You feel me? So I can't be mad at my elder for telling on me. I was ashamed to walk past her like that, because she got a bar to give me. The fuck is wrong with you? You know, that kind of shit. You know, like, god damn. You know what I'm saying? So we knew not to go across that line with our elders, man. You know what I'm saying? The gang banging would whoop on you for the elder. When we was taught, nigga, don't you talk like that around my mama, you know, my auntie, and no cousin over here. And we smoking in front of my people, you know, house. we was taught, how y'all doing, Mr. Such and Such? Because the Panthers, we come from that area, man. Bungie Carter, Fati, all these dudes that these cats is YouTubing about today, they grew up in this area. And these are the people that when I'm walking, they hugging me. Because they know what I'm going through, right? Hey, the motherfuckers sitting and smoking weed after I done went past because I'm on my way to school talking about, man, how was him? You know, that kind of shit. And that's, you know, what took me further to the street, because I knew I was always watched by somebody. Like, man, everybody that grew up with my family started everything in LA. I mean, shit, one of my cousins is the fire chief, you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And we in every area, and so, and gang banging included. And so it's like, you know, my uncles and cousins and other relatives on both sides started all this other shit. And so it was blessings to get past, and then it was opportunities through them when it was like, we got him, because he ain't coming back home. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's looking like. And so, you know, my brother's father was, you know, a big drug dealer. You know what I'm saying? My mother was, you know, they pretty girls, you know, Catholic school girls, coming up in the 60s, and they brother the biggest football star of the gridiron. So these kind of men, all of them are coming, you know, courting and being around, gotta do their best around these elders and try to have action at these women.
So it was kind of a slap on the face, you know, that this 18-year-old was somebody that we coached and provided, you know, resources when it comes to family activity, you know, with older individuals, you know, being the coaches there, you know, village raising a village, you know, village raising children. It was, lo and behold, this individual was recognized as having some mental problems. He was a good football player, and he just had some real ankle issues, and was recognized by my uncle watching him play football. And so, you know, nobody did anything about it though, other than express that somebody needs to do something about it, but nobody stepped up to deliver in that respect. And, you know, my uncle, these are his words, he said he expressed to everybody else in his fans and they were watching this kid that somebody needs to help this kid. And lo and behold, because nobody didn't act at that moment, there might be a great chance that that kid veered off into where he ended up at.
So he coached the same kid.
Yeah, he coached the kid, man.
This is crazy. So at any moment, did he ever get a chance to speak to this kid?
No, I don't think he had any interest in speaking with him. There was a lot of stuff that was going on in court, and a lot of, you know, he was an 18-year-old kid, man, so he was wild. He was already on that level. Comes to, you know, he was kicking up dust, you know, and so he was going further with this, like, yeah, I did that. So it kind of, you know, nobody want to speak to him. It was, you know, my uncle at the time was like 45 or something, so, you know, this is a kid still to us, and he had dangerous kids, you know, people trying to be respectful. You know what I'm saying? Trying to do the dignitary thing, rely on the systems. You know what I'm saying? My family hit squares at the you know, at the most. So, you know, they were taught to, you know, my uncle come from that era. You know what I'm saying? He was a lawyer. He's a lawyer, and like I say, you know, he started the union. So just think he was at Sidney Poitier era. You know, he dudes wore suits. You know, he didn't. You know, you know, in the 70s, the afros, and, you know, even Jesse Jackson, and they all went through that phase of dashikis because it was in, you know, but they were conservatives. They were taught to do like white people do, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to highlight anything in a negative, but, you know, IBM style, like Microsoft broke away from it, you know, suits, walk this way, you know, talk this way, you know, especially if the cameras are on, you know, that kind of stuff. And so to get out and dirty about it outside of the football field, especially, you know, he had to be a gentleman. And so it's not easy trying to hold this status, you know, because you throw it all away, all the hard work, they throw it all away by not just giving it, you know, not caring. And he didn't go that route. He kind of got pulled back and relied on the system. And so we're going through these court processes and stuff. And so they got to be there. They got to be a trial. They got to see him every day, you know. And years later, after I ended up going to the county jails, and, you know, headed towards prison for 25 years.
Yeah, so at this point now, just to touch on that topic, because I know you said 4 months later, this is kind of the point we were at in that conversation before we veered off. I think you were, I guess you got the word from the street, what was going on, right? People were telling you this, telling you that. You get up and what happens?
Oh, well, sure, I heard the detectives, you know, so when they came to the house, and, you know, they're speaking, I could hear it, I'm in the house, it's my house. And so they stopped by to let the family know what's going on and where they're active investigating the situation. You know, they explained to the family that it was something to do with the neighbors, you know, Tasha or Valerie, I believe it was, you know, this whole lawsuit thing. And so I'm hearing that, you know, like, wait a minute, you know, I'm stay first. I'm getting them out the way. Everybody's got to go. That's how I'm thinking. If we find, we still don't know who did it. That shit, you know. So, like, man, I hope we find out who did this shit. And so then I was like, damn, no, they had something to do with it. Damn. You know, so my mind is, you know, I'm 14, but I got movies to inspire me. You know, I'm like, man, look, this is how you go down. You know, this is the plot. So the mission is now to get that done first. I'm going down the line. I'm thinking Terminator. I'm looking at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
So you find a gun.
Yeah, we ended up an older individual from the neighborhood backed me up on it. We tried to break in some houses and stuff. We just my mind got set on doing that.
You was on another path.
Yeah, I didn't go to school that morning, and instead, you know, I sat in the garage with some other young kids in the neighborhood, and we plotted. And broken houses, you know, didn't find nothing, and somebody was like, wait a minute, you know, the other homie just got a shotgun at somebody else's house. Fuck all that. Let's go where he at. Let's go get the, you know, right here. And shit, he was with it. You know, and everybody know what's up. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You went there with one of the homies, like, cuz the homie found out who responsible for killing the little homie, you know, like, we gotta do something about this shit. We kids, though, you know, and so he looking at me like, he 18, so, you know, he a kid too, but he a elder.
Right.
And so he like, for real, and, you know, I'm choking up and shit, you know, so it's just touching everybody, you know, he's like, man, fuck that, let's get it done. And so we plotted, they fall in my plan. And so we waited till it got dark because I was gonna catch the bus with a riot pump shotgun. It didn't work, so we ended up walking through the alleys, not really realizing it's really miles away, man. This ain't, you know, we're not thinking that deep into the chess move.
Right.
So, you know, we ended up crossing into another neighborhood, and, you know, one of the individuals with us, one of the youngsters on a bike. So he had drove up, he's like the scout. So he come running back, and I'm like, man, there's a group of motherfuckers on this corner. I don't think we're gonna get past them, man. And they from the other side. So now it's some other shit. And it's like, man, I said, ain't nobody going to interfere with my mission, man. You know, so I'm a kid, I'm crying. These kids don't know we in a huddle in the alley. You know what I'm saying? You know, these other motherfuckers are down the street. And, you know, the big homie, you know, the oldest motherfucker amongst us, you know, he's standing tall. I mean, he's 6'4" or something like that. And I'm little me, so he's seeing me crying and shit. Gun taller than me. He's like, fuck that shit, cuz, let's go. And we walked down the street and got to the end of the alley. And, you know, shit, realized that it wasn't a movie. And ended up having to flee back home in our neighborhood. And I ended up in the back of the church. We grew up as Catholic, So
Okay, well,
I was in Catholic school.
that's a deep, deep moment.
Yeah, so I'm thinking this is one of those sins you can't get back on. And I'm hearing my grandmother's voice saying that no different than him.
Damn.
And so the helicopters was hovering and shit, everybody not like where they have to go. And I'm like, man, I went to the church and fell asleep on the back steps of the church. And the priest that did the family funeral seen me. And he thought I was just going through it.
Right. You know what happened?
I still had my school uniform on and everything, so he thought I was, school had started up the next day.
Oh wow, he seen you next to
He said, seeing me, I'm on campus. So he thinking I'm just going through it. And he pulled me into his office, you know, this one we learned some shit about the Archdiocese and the Catholic Church and how powerful they are. So when I got to confessing to him, that's how we was taught.
That's the life, right?
We was taught.
When you was 14, this is all you knew.
Every other mafia movie I see, man, a motherfucking killer go to the church and tell the priest, man, he needs some forgiveness for this shit. I mean, motherfucker, it's really that lifestyle. When you really out here doing shit like that. And it's just business and shit, you know, we grew up understanding it. You know, this is what man gotta deal with. And I'm a kid. My uncle was looking for somebody that did this at the time. I didn't know at the time. But, I mean, anybody. I learned later. I learned from lawmen. I learned from sheriffs who knew about the family. Like, man, I don't know how you've been hanging on. I would have tore up the world. You know, it's like these motherfuckers with badges locking me up. Talking about that fuck some shit. I mean, one of the sheriffs that pulled me over, arrested me, and went to prison for the first time, man, he pulled me over. I'm like, I just turned 18, I'm out here doing my thing. I'm responsible for them making carjacking laws across the country. I'm fucking with the car rings, so I got all of them, you know, I'm driving all these cars and shit.
So you get out on 8, so what did they do? What did they charge?
Oh, when it comes to the, you know, that situation, man, right. Because of it being a family and because of this priest and me sharing with him what took place, the first thing he called my mother.
Yeah. Okay.
I had called her at first. I ended up going to somebody's house for a minute and I called her and was like, I can't come home. You know, she was like, what? On the phone. And so now, you know, it's my first time never coming home.
Right.
And she, you know, he called her. You know, she came to the convalescent home, or the, whatever they call this shit. You know, and so she like trying to go mother on me, and he like kind of like had to hold her back, like this is some deep shit here. We kind of like doing something else, and I broke it down to her like, Mama, I did something I don't think I'll be able to get to heaven. And she popped family again. So that's where I'm at the time. So I ended up going to juvenile hall. And, you know, we one of those families, man. And so the counselor that's running this mother and housing unit used to have a crush on my mother. They grew up and like grew up together. They know us. They talking about stats and football, and you know they know who my uncle is. So now that I'm in here, he got me. You know, he letting my mother know that we got him. You know, he good. Don't worry about shit. You know, now my family doing what they do. They can't pick me up.
That's what's up.
But I didn't know it was like not fair in the eyes of people. And so, you know, one of the officers, because it led to the, you know, the LAPD, you know, this is who arrested me, and you know, I was running hard with this shit until my family did what they had to do to get them off of me. And one of the cops came over to the house to say that the second dude had died. And he seen me on the porch.
Wow.
And that's where I became suicidal. My mother was upset. The family was upset because they felt like that cop shouldn't have did that. You know what I'm saying? He should have came over the house just to stop by to tell me the other guy died. And then he drove off. He didn't talk to my parents or nothing.
So, you know, this is a crazy story. So, where are you all now? Excuse me, better yet, where are you now today?
In Hollywood, filmmaker, sharing these stories. And along the way, I've learned everything in respect to how film is made from a story up. You know, so, in my young years, writing was something that was introduced to me as a form of therapy after surviving the massacre. Dr. Cynthia Powell, a black female psychologist, you know, she opened me up, and it was genuine how she responded and what she suggested, and so I took it serious. And she just told me to go back throughout that summer and write about all the happy things. Not understanding that she's, you know, helping me control mental recall. That's how our minds work, our brains work like that. And so I got all these recalls, these flashes of terror. And so she's helping me get past what causes you to lose it and try to commit suicide. And when I learned that I can control my focus through reenactment, through storytelling, through just reminiscing and documenting, that was cool. But what really worked for me is how others responded when they read it. And so staff writer Paul Shabby from the Los Angeles Times, who did all the exclusives for our family at that time, was real close to one of my aunts. And I trusted her with my story, and so I shared it with her first, and she shared it with him. And as a writer and you know, a journalist, he recognized something about my writings, and eventually connected me or introduced me to filmmaker Dietra who was creator of the Martin Lawrence Show, and he was the first filmmaker who took my writing serious, and especially wanted to do my family's life story and what happened leading to the tragedy. And so when it came to the family, the only person that wrote anything when it came to they needed something to build it from. My story was the story to build a script from, to do a movie, you know, based on what took place, and you know, highlighting more so this, you know, my grandmother, the type of person she was, not the massacre itself, but you know, just she deserves to be, you know, immortalized in such a way. So that's what they expressed, and you know, it took me because they were surprised for one that I wrote what I wrote, but they understood that it was significant because it was Paul Shabby himself who connected us. And it was based on the outcome of the pilot of the Martin Lawrence Show, in respect to contracts and obligations. And so we all, you know, what happened with the Martin Lawrence Show, it blew up. And so Dietra introduced me to fair contracts, and his contract allowed me to go anywhere that gave me a better opportunity because he was busy with the Martin Lawrence Show. Good brother. Yeah, good brother.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Where are you today with the person that actually names are attached to this whole incident?
If I dealt with, there's three of them, and so, you know, the driver, I got past that when I ended up in prison and was playing basketball with him and didn't really recognize him on hand. So it led to a way of thinking because he, in my eyes at that time, it was like I failed in being able to deal with him. And he was that close to me. And he didn't really remember who I was. And it was after the fact that I realized he was who he was. And before I could get back you know, dealing with that situation the next day at this prison. I mean, they recognized they made a mistake by putting us on the same yard. And so when they moved me from that yard, I felt like I failed my family. And it was my younger sister, who was 12, that gave me the best, you know, she shared something with me that made me prevent me from trying suicide a third time. And, you know, she said that, well, you know, I'm glad you didn't do anything because, you know, you probably would have got shot and you wouldn't have made that home with us. And so, you know, I was not concerned with the elders, I was more concerned with the younger ones. And I lived for them. That's what kept me alive in prison. So I made it home 2 years after that. Thanks to her giving me the sound advice, because I thought I failed, but it taught me, you know, how to get past situations. And I evolved, you know, since then, and to realizing that it's better to, you know, it's healing to forgive than to like seek revenge. Let me finish this up when it comes to my mom and respects to where she's at and what I've done in relation to her and where she's at. And like I said, I was speaking about these girls, you know, these babies getting shot down, and how what I had heard on television about what happened in New York with an innocent child that was in a stroller, and how it reminded me of what just happened in my neighborhood with a cat who rolled up, and it wasn't something intended for him. There was something going on in the environment. You know, the neighbor had some cats trying to get at him on something. And when they come through, they let loose. And his baby got shot though. And so it's like, these are the things that these cats got to deal with when it comes out. It's not easy to tell a cat to let it go. You know, and in this case, he wasn't looking for no trouble. He was coming home, you know. And so how do you deal with that?
Right.
And he, you know, it ain't easy. I don't know how he's dealing with it. You feel me? I just know how I can relate to it. And that's what led to us creating the Mothers Against Gun Violence Forum, and thinking that my mother and people like her could help these younger women that are going through this right now, and these fathers as well. And what I do see about surviving is that I am convincing to others that are going through it, and this is daily to happen.
Right.
And so that's what got me to really take and film even serious, you know, greater in respect to where I'm at and what to do since such a thing. And so
and it kept you focused. I understand.
the bigger picture finally coming clear. So like, this is the reason why you still here type stuff.
Right, right.
And that's why I'm hard with it the same way I was hard with everything else when it came to my determination to try to take my life. That don't work. What's next? Determination to get out in the streets and let it be done like that. Man, that didn't happen. Now I gotta go to time for crazy stuff. This didn't do it. You know, it's like, what is gonna do it, man? Fighting the baby mama over my son, all of it just led to where I'm at now. When it comes to the fight, is sharing this all with the world, right, so that people can be touched by it and act on it. You know, and that's what this is about. And so, you know, your great works and what you're doing is the reason why I ain't got no problem with giving it to you first and raw. Because I don't share this, and I just recently started to get on the camera, in front of the camera, in relation, you know, to it, only because of the babies that's going through it.
Well, this is something we want to bring to film. It's something that we're thinking to take it to a different light. I think it's a story. It's a great story as well, you know, as well as an influential story, because it's not something that nobody's talking about. There wasn't nothing that anybody done. This is what I want y'all to understand. This was a mistake that happened, right? And it's like, you can't give this mistake back, basically. So it's like, at this point right now, all of the viewers and the people that are watching, I just want your thoughts, your opinions, you know, anything that you can say, consoling words and things like that to bring to the table would be great. Best I can say is, I would love for you guys to understand that this story is something that we would love to bring to life, and Kermit is somebody that was an icon. It's definitely to spread the light on that situation is one, but the loss in his family and what that entailed, and you know, and everything as well, you know, especially the survivor of it, you know what I mean? The brother we're here with right now, the one that had to be in the house, you know, if we could even touch on that, because I think that's something that we really didn't touch on. I know we spoke on it numerous of times, but I mean, where were you in the house? You know, that's something that we probably didn't touch on, you know, at that time. Because I know you said it was early in the morning and everybody was asleep, but where were you at that particular moment?
Yeah, in the back room. As kids, we had sleeping arrangements. So I was supposed to be in the front room, but because I got into a little scuffle with my cousin, the punishment for me was to sleep in the back room the second time. And so, you know, I ended up back there, and you know, kind of like it was unfinished business for me and my cousin. Like, you know, we kids, we still
right.
Our life. It's like when we wake up, we're gonna still have to deal with what we deal with, you know. And when that happened, I felt like if I was in the room, I felt like I could have protected my brother because I was raised to protect him, period. And then I felt like I couldn't tell nobody that me and my cousin got in a fight the night before, and my auntie just like the last minute, you go in the back room.
Right.
And I don't wake up, you know, to him, and I get past that fingerprint, you know, cousins and best friends and moving on like we always do, is feeling guilty about it. But yeah, back room, and me and my uncle. And so just awakened by gunshots. I was moments before that, I don't know how long it was before that, but my grandmother had woke me up. She like pushed me over the shoulder, looked back at her like that. Like what? And she was asking me if I knew where her she collected those pennants from the Olympics. You know, she's a sports fanatic because her son.
Right.
She got these pennants and she thinking one of the kids who took one of her, it was the eagle, it was an eagle dude, you know. She had everything associated with the Summer Olympics, you know, in her hometown. And brushed her off. I'm like, I don't know where it's at to do. I was a nice student. Wow. I had to walk out that closet. You know, it was scuffling, so like a football club. Gunshots. You hear gunshots. Neighborhood had situations like that, starting to be like that. You know?
Right.
So, that the house next door had stuff. In the 70s, I remember, you know, this guy got killed on that front porch. And it was some domestic stuff. He lived there. You know, it was domestic stuff. I remember that. And, you know, that's about it. But, you know, he started knowing the gangs started to pick up. And he started to hear stuff. I think a few weeks before that, or a month before that, there was a big house party somewhere down the lower area of Los Angeles going towards downtown, the 40 some kind of big shooting that happened. The first, you know, like starting to become big, and it was the AK-47 thing. It was like drove from a house party and trying to air them all out. And so that was that. Then what happened to our family, and that was the beginning of like starting to kick and crack off like that.
The crack era.
Yeah,
It was the crack era at this time.
So we gotta live in it like Vietnam, you know.
Right. So you see snowfall, you get to understand
Yeah,
what it really was. Right, what it really was. You know what I mean?
We were foot soldiers at the time when it comes to this. We really like Vietnam, 18-year-olds forced into this shit and like gotta make something out of it and get back home. And that's us, you know what I'm saying? Because it's, like I say, I came home, you know what I'm saying? That was my grandmother's house. I had to come back to my neighborhood and live with it. And be the one to express it to everybody else because it's obvious, you know, Damon ain't here no more, you know, and he was more popular than I was in the neighborhood. You know, he was the little kid that everybody knew. And all the older dudes said he was the coolest cat. And so, you know, it's like somebody did, you know, we come up with, if some older dude sees somebody messing with him, you know, they'll get up in there and dig it, you know, so now when this happened, there's somebody that they went to high school with.
That's his little brother.
Yeah, you know, so they, you know, it's a motherfucker that they know, and like, man, I beat this motherfucker up before, or, man,
How much younger is he?
3 years. No, my brother is 6 years younger than me. But the dude who killed him, I mean, he's 3 years older than me, so 3 or 4 years older. So they all, we in that age range, so most of the cats in the neighborhood that's from the neighborhood, you know, they really looking at it like, so they, you know, did some shit like that. And that was, you know, they see my brother coming back and forth from the liquor store and going to the neighborhood playing with his friends. You know, it was back then, a kid could go.
Right, do
whatever.
Everybody
block to the next, you know, nobody.
Buy a pack of cigarettes for anybody.
So, you know, he was known in the neighborhood, you know, and like my mother said, old soul. You know, he go sit with the elders and everybody knew him. So it was a major loss to them. And so they reacted, you know what I'm saying, in their ways. And so, you know, these cats began like, why they set it off? Well, man, why don't hit me like that? I'm gonna hit first. And in the name of the little monkey.
And this is early. This is what, 84. So this is, like you said, Crips and Bloods is not really.
They there.
Right, but they're not perfect for that.
It ain't like the
shit
you see it.
Right. It ain't perfect.
Yeah, they, you know, and it wasn't backwards. Like I said, that was a debate then. You know, cats was looking up to this dude for that. And so I've been out in the juvenile halls and on the streets catching this bus throughout Los Angeles and going to high schools where these motherfuckers went to high school.
What they call you? What is the nickname?
And he's known me as that kid that hid in the closet, or that, you know, that nephew or Ivan, and I don't know if I know nothing about it, or I used to go like crazy. I was with my cousin from another neighborhood, that's his name, and I just got into it with some younger cats in my neighborhood, like, ain't no big crazy from our neighborhood, you know, so I ain't gonna call yourself a little crazy. You should be crazy, but I didn't wanna like be crazy because I looked up to my cousin. And so I'm like, well, then I started like, man, what nobody like crazy, like these bros, the females like, ain't nobody trying to mess with nobody named crazy. You know what I'm saying? So it just went to Ivan, and then, you know, one of my homies was like, he kept calling me Ivan Conniving, because I was just always on some gang or something. And so he like, Ivan Conniving, you know, conniving ass motherfucker, he's Ivan Conniving. So I was like, no, the females don't want to know no nigga named Ivan Conniving neither. Like, the nigga, he ain't honest about talking about he love you type shit. So we just went to Ivan, you know, he told me Ivan. I went through a few names, like, fuck it, I'm gonna give him Ivan, fuck it, it's just Ivan, motherfucker.
I'm gonna change this shit.
Yeah, just keep it basic. Ivan is terrible. I started getting after you some terrible motherfucker. You know, I was like, God damn, I can't run from that one. My name is Ivan, so I'm Mac. You know, given to me by other people, and I took it. Like, I communicate, so I took that one. And most people know me. If we like somebody came in and go, I'm Mac. You know, or anybody that I grew up with, they gonna say, hey, what's up? How you doing? But I'm Mac. Check this out. You know, they gonna refer to me as Ivan, and you know, the neighborhood just know me as Ivan. You know, the courts know me as Ivan Leon Scott.
So all in all, how much time did you do?
25 years. Adult prison, and adult jail and prison. 25. I did a little bit. Juvenile hall. My mother got me like in one of the stories that I've written based on my life experiences. It's about how parents tried their best to deal with us, and it is all psychological. So, you know, she had.
It's but so much a mother could do. And just being honest, you know, and not tough people, man. It's just so much. Man.
She she's strong in that respect. She helps, and then so, like I said, I did learn that would work, and I'm thankful for Dr. Marty Bolstrope, and she's a kind soul, and the only renowned psychologist who her specialty and focus is on women and their yearnings, and being associated that women have it's a sexual drive because they want to have children, and the younger years is there, and so it's not to have a baby at 24 and then lose the baby through violence at 24, and so it led to her coming up with something, and she expressed on record that people who've been through it, right, better people to help people that are going through it. And so I got that when it came to all of the doctors that I did shun, and how if I didn't shun, what kind of help would it have gotten, I would have gotten out of it when it comes to, they were on it at that time. They knew I needed some kind of, therapy after going through that. It's just they didn't know.
And this is at 14.
Yeah, so it's just how they're doing is complicated, and then of course, mental health is the hardest thing to get people to take as a remedy to situations.
And we're talking about 1984 when they're shutting down all the programs.
Everything.
Buildings everywhere, black on. So we got to put people in the place in the time, right?
And so I'm a kid though, but it is going down. As I'm older, I now see why it was going down the way it was going down. I'm thankful to be able to get past it, but definitely understanding that I'm from that. I'm that relic from that past when it comes to. Can't nobody speak about the floor level or the suffering better than I can on behalf of them, because that's what's motivated me to take this filmmaking to that level and get the right stories told, not to glorify a negative experience, but to help people think about it. Like Arsenio always say that thing make you say,
Because you remember the good.
Yeah.
We always the bad every time, man. You think about it.
We understood that ain't, even like as kids when we grew up, like when we grew up, we go to the pool hall, if we want to go swimming, we want to walk to this park. Whoever went to the park better come back together.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody trying to hear about what happened with this and you had to leave and you finna get boo-backed by your mama, his mama. Like, why'd you leave it? You know what I'm saying? What the hell? We see in Los Angeles a big transition with the gentrification and everything, but the Mexican families give us the best examples of that unit. And I know that when I do movies and I show a match cut, and I show like a hindsight, and I show what we are today, and then I go back and show these houses were all occupied by black families, but the culture was the same when it comes to everybody look out for everybody. Nobody killing each other. You know what I'm saying? Nobody killing their grandmothers, and you finna look out, and we learned that. It wasn't there.
But that's what you said, community.
Yeah,
we understood what it was. And see, it's missing.
That's the link right there. So I think that what happened to my family was the beginning of how it went in a different direction. Hard drugs is a factor. And we gotta keep in mind the 60s came with a lot of it, and a lot of parents came from that, and that was the beginning of a lot of these youngsters that grew up in the 60s, from 65 and up. And they turned, you know what I'm saying? They turned into them dudes. It was the beginning of these, not just broken homes, but a broken home where the parent is on some psychedelic shit at the least, and the kid got to deal with that.
It was definitely time when government took place. Like we could get that part right.
Yeah, and so they stressed out, and so I can see it, and that's where I'm at with. I forgive, I understand the bigger picture when it comes to the cause, and I know that my culture, where I come from, is rich and giving us a better example of how to deal with it, and it's about being strong enough to bring that back, and I believe storytelling is one of the most effective ways to do so.
Where we ever existed,
Man,
it was all oral tradition.
Yeah.
So at this note now, people, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it. I think this was an amazing interview. I think we got a lot out of it. If you can, just take a look at the brother, man. Look at his story, look at some of his writings. He has books out there on Amazon as well, and other different avenues. So,
On a professional level, I do go by I.L. Scott. So,
yeah. You guys take a look at it. There you go. Little crazy didn't write that book. So let's get ahead and get it, man. Alright, everybody, it's a wrap. I love your time. I love to see everybody subscribe, get everything right, and check out my brother.
Oh, yeah.